Exhibit A. Here's a modern day phone. Recognize it? Here's a phone from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Stay with me. Here's a car from today. And here's a car from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Well, get this. Here's a classroom of today. And here's a class we used 150 years ago. Now ain't that a shame? In literally more than a century, nothing has changed.
In our current public education system, we see many problems in the way the system functions. There are two factors in place that are the leading cause for the failure in our system. First, there's a strong focus placed on standardized tests when we are testing students on their knowledge that they have learned. Secondly, the way teachers are paid in a system that doesn't provide any incentive to go above and beyond after they have achieved tenure.
Current Minnesota policy has students taking standardized tests every year to measure their proficiency. The test that my students take is called the MCA test, and it's taken every spring. Teachers spend valuable class time preparing students for the test, and many of the students that take the test do not have the adequate knowledge through special education needs, language deficiencies, or being behind in academics to even have a chance at passing the tests.
These standardized tests rate students at or above a basic understanding as well as at or above a proficient understanding in math and reading. You can see based on these graphs from the 2016 Digest of Education Statistics, students scoring proficient in either math or reading is around 30%, give or take a few percentage points over the year. But there is no substantial growth. And at even a basic understanding, only around 70% of students are at that level. Why is it that students are often falling short of where would be desirable? We are in a society and a nation where advancement is one of the focal points of our people, yet we fail to improve our education system. These tests were created by a man named Frederick J. Kelly. He initially created them based on a similar concept in China. They were created in 1914, around the time of World War I. According to an article from HHS Media, America needed a way to pump students out as fast as their assembly lines pushed out products. The response? Standardized testing. They used this to compare students to each other to determine which students moved up in grade levels and which stayed put for the year. After seeing how this made every student think and function in a very similar way, Frederick J. Kelly released a statement saying, "These tests are too crude to be used and should be abandoned." One of the most obvious issues in our country's education system is the lack of adequate teachers, especially in lower income areas.
It has been my experience that many of the teachers that are coming in the first couple of years work extremely hard, put thoughtful lessons together, and I've often seen teachers be let go due to budget cuts, student numbers, all sorts of reasons, but not because of poor performance.
In a study done across 5 school districts in Minnesota and Iowa, the School Improvement Model, or SIM, found that teachers can be assessed on a basis of 14 different criteria to determine their effectiveness. A few of the criteria that are used are the ability to manage a classroom, knowledge of subject matter, provide adequate feedback to students, and how effectively they are able to communicate. It's easy to identify this list of criteria, and it's also fairly easy to score teachers based on the criteria. Where this becomes challenging is trying to find people to hire that are able to meet and exceed these criteria. The biggest reason that a good teacher is so hard to come by is because of the way that teachers are paid. When looking at the average salaries of teachers across the country, they're very low. With this being the case, the career path is not as desirable as one that offers much more money.
Currently, for education, the pay scale is a set scale based on your years of service and your education. All teachers working the same number of years will make the same rate. All teachers with the same level of education will make the same rate. So the only way to advance in your pay scale is to be there longer or to take additional education in order to increase your salary. There is no part in the pay system that a teacher is rewarded for exceptional service, for being a quality teacher, and taking time to plan effective lessons for her students.
This in turn creates a large problem with people that would make great teachers not going into the profession because of the low salary. Countries like Finland have made changes to this structure, and their students are succeeding at a much higher rate. Many of the problems attributed to the schooling system are a direct result of the lack of quality teachers. The reason that teachers don't have any incentive to go above and beyond is because once they become tenured, there's no more expectation on them to provide a quality education.
I am really concerned about the students currently enrolled in our schools. Our school system in America is falling short of giving them the education they deserve. When compared at schools across the world, we are not in the top percentages of schools. In this age of 21st century learners, our students are going to be competing with students nationwide, worldwide, for jobs, and other students will be coming to the interview much more prepared than our students will.
When looking at the education system, we can see several different issues. But according to a journal from JSTOR titled The Political Functions of the Education System, there is one piece that is the main cause for all the problems, and that is the fact that the education system is a product of policy from government. Therefore, the people making decisions on what should be taught, how teachers should be evaluated, paid, funding, and other things is done by someone that has never worked in a school and has a very little idea of how they actually function. When government runs something like education, it immediately becomes less efficient than if it were run as a business. If education were run by a business, we would see far greater success in both students and our country. Policymakers often create ideas that on paper work very well, but when put into a school system where not every student thinks the same way and not every teacher teaches the same way, we see problems in how the system doesn't work on a large scale. And the students that do not get the proper education are found left behind. The education system's solution for that is to take them out of class to try and catch them up with one-on-one tutoring, but that tends to just make the problem worse. We can see there's many problems with our current education system, and they need to be addressed for our country to be able to advance and compete with other countries across the world.